Welcome to the latest in our Nature Positive Dialogues, a series of interviews and live panels from COP30 in Belém, broadcast by We Don't Have Time in partnership with the Nature Positive Initiative. And I'm joined now by Ilona Szabó de Carvalho, who's co-founder and president of the Instituto Igarapé. Welcome, Ilona.
So much, Gemma. Wonderful to be with you.
Fantastic. And let's get right into it. So your think tank really looks at that connection between security, nature and climate. And could you perhaps explain a bit to us, how is criminality or its environmental impacts affecting the nature positive ambition?
Yes, for sure. Might not be so straightforward when you hear it first, but we are here at the heart of the Amazon forest that all of us know that we have to save from deforestation. So to start, I want to say 90% or over 90% of deforestation in the Amazon is illegal. So it's driven by illicit economies or environmental crime that converge with non-environmental crime. And what happens is that this destabilizes this land use change and this deforestation, degradation of the forest, destabilize this biome. And instead, some parts of the Amazon that, of course, is a major carbon sink, starts to emit carbon. So just alters the ecosystem service that the forest has preserved. At the same time, when this happens and a lot of carbon goes to the atmosphere by just degrading or destroying this forest, you also contribute to accelerate climate change. And climate change, on the other hand, also disturbs the resilience of the forest. So, for instance, in the tropical forest of the Amazon, we never had wildfires with the intensity that we have now. We had man-made fires, but now you can have wildfires in a tropical forest. So also the forest lose the resilience of the extreme events that we have to battle when the temperature rises. So it's a vicious cycle with these illicit economies that we have to break. So that's what, when we talk about the tropical forest in special, we have to understand that the link to illicit economies, to illicit supply chains, especially of commodities, is driving this deforestation.
And what would you say are some of the links between nature-related crime and corruption or human rights abuses?
So, unfortunately, crime cooperates more than the rule of law, institutions, law enforcement, and others. And we need to understand that they don't operate in a vacuum. So, these criminal organizations, for instance, that smuggle drugs or do illicit gold mining or timber extraction, they share the same infrastructure, the same routes. So it's a web of organizations that also have linkages to corruption. So it could be local officials, regional officials, like people in office and in very strategic positions. They need fraudulent documentation. So it's a interlinkage, really an interrelation of environmental and non-environmental crime that, of course, also links to a laundering of this finance and of the proceeds of these illicit economies, so they become licit. Because, for instance, we know that drugs are illegal products, but timber, gold, or cattle, they are actually legal, but they could have an illicit origin. And that's what we need to understand and to tackle. So we've been working to support the institutions that need to enforce the legislations, to track this better, to understand these dynamics better, so they can actually act to prevent, but also throughout to avoid that illegal products are being sold legally and consumed by us.
Can you share, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges or obstacles that are hampering local communities from embracing the nature positive transition? And what would be some of the enablers that would support them in getting there?
This is a very important question because it deserves and actually needs a paradigm shift. We need to understand that peoples and forests coexist for a long time. We cannot look at this only through a pure conservation perspective, because the peoples that are inhabiting here, they are part of the ecosystem and they preserve the forest. But if they don't have any alternative, they end up like feeding this kind of exploitative economic models that are based on the extraction. So we have to offer alternatives. And I think the lack of alternatives, economic, sustainable alternatives, is one problem. The lack of state presence, opening the space for these organized criminal networks to, let's say, be much more present and threaten these peoples of the forests in their territories. I don't say this is linked to poverty, inequalities, and a more systemic socio-economic issue. But on the good side, I think Brazil and other countries in the Amazon basin are really pioneering bioeconomies, which are the economies that are trying to revert this logic of exploitation and to work with nature, right? I mean, to be there for today, but also for the future generations. And I do believe that there is a lot already going on, that this can be scaled up in a way that alternatives are given, that we can also prioritize the cooperation for tackling these illicit economies, this environmental crime. And we're very happy that for the first time, we've been working a lot on the synergies between nature and climate. These issues are entering the action agenda, the Leaders Summit agenda, and I hope also we'll take a peek to the official negotiations, since they're so strategic to this balance of, to climate stability these days.
So we're here in Belém in Brazil for COP30. What would you say are some of the really key areas of action that we need to see at this COP? And how do you see Brazil and the region really leaning into the leadership of that?
Well, I think, we used to say in Brazil until these days that it's a forest COP. And of course, this is not to say that we should not look into fossil fuels transition. That's not either or, it's and. So we have to take advantage of where we are to bring this to the heart. And Brazil is pioneering not only bioeconomies, but nature finance models to just start valuing nature, going beyond carbon. Carbon markets are very important to this equation, but we need to go beyond nature. So Brazil is pushing also for a novel financial instrument called the Tropical Forest Forever Facility, the TFFF. So we are at a moment where we can actually understand that it's a win-win situation. And the way we're framing this is that we have to rescue Mission 1.5, and we're only going to do this if we have a roadmap to transitioning away from fossil fuels, but also a roadmap to transitioning away from deforestation, so a roadmap for zero deforestation. And this started this discussion in Glasgow as a voluntary commitment. Then in Dubai as a consensus, and I think COP30 could really advance a roadmap to zero deforestation. And the third pillar to this equation is we need carbon capture at scale. And again, bioeconomy come into play because nature-based solutions are the best technology, affordable, available, and scalable today. What we need to really foster and promote is confidence building between the North and South countries, so this market can be of high integrity. And part of the work we do at the Igarapé, at our impact unit, the Green Bridge facility, is to help high integrity finance and enterprises to thrive.
And one last question, if I may. Can you just express what does nature positive mean to you?
So in this context, I would say it means a lot, but at COP30, I would say that we need to show the world that new economic models that thrive on the abundance of nature are possible. They already exist, and they are here to be just scaled and taken to other places where these resources are available. And we need to abandon the ones that thrive on the exploitation and degradation of ecosystems. So Brazil can be this nature superpower. It's already on the way to be, but it also can, I would say, promote this idea that many other countries that still have this abundance of resources value them in a different way. So let's build economic models that thrive with the abundance of nature and not with the exploitation of nature. This is nature positive to me.
Thank you very much. Ilona Szabó de Carvalho from the Igarapé Institute. Thanks for joining us. We've heard lots now about important action forward to support local communities and sustainable prosperity through the sustainable bioeconomy for a nature positive transition that's good for nature, the climate and people as well. Thank you.